Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Mokanaman at YouTube with another modelling video, and today we will be embarking on a new journey. I've done a lot of these journeys, some that I've finished, some of them that I haven't, some of them that are going to be permanently ongoing, like the airbrush series, which should start at some point. I've got a new tool. It is just a tool, it's not like a new step into the hobby or anything. I'm not a big believer of that. I just believe in the expansion of your skill repertoire, the expansion of the tools that you obtain and able to use. And realistically, even though this item is a game changer, people are getting into it and I'm just jumping into it myself, it is nothing but a tool. And just because I've got it does not mean I'm in no greater advantage to others, but I will be able to do some very cool things. This is the Up Mini 3D printer. It's very basic unit. I bought it very cheaply on special. It's $1,000 piece that I got a little more than half price. Its resolution's about 0.2mm pixels or 200 microns. It is a bit on the small size with a 120 by 120 by 120 millimeter printing space, as well as on the slow side. So it is about a generation 2 older 3D printer that you have to manually calibrate and whatnot, but this is a piece for me to learn with, so I'm able to access and use far more powerful and modern 3D printers in the future if it also suits my modelling style and works in a way that I like. Now, this isn't a kit. I don't think I would struggle with a kit and time and building and faults and fault finding. Can't be bothered, so I bought something that's all encapsulated in a box. It is able to use PLA, which is a similar material to styrene and glues directly to each other, as well as ABS. I think there is 2 rolls of ABS in there. So far in the video, what I want to do is unbox it, set it up, and print some of the basic tutorial models. I do have CAD skills. I unfortunately on contract am not allowed to teach that via my YouTube channel, but I could show what finished products and basic skills you can do to make components and print them out, or download items and print them out and incorporate them in the hobby, clean up, whatnot. So there's going to be a few videos of me mucking around with this. I still got a lot to figure out, so it's going to be a very slow journey. I am all new to all this, so instead of me lecturing and talking about it, it's going to be a group and community learning thing. So instead of me rambling on forever, I'm going to unbox it. It's double boxed. I got a very quick, simple startup guide. Hopefully it's that easy. Here we go. So we got the main box, about the size of an espresso machine. A reel, cover, and this is a beefy power supply. We'll hope it comes with a cable. And a box with all sorts of goodies. The Up Mini. So I got some gloves, cable, glasses, nippers. Shit, there's all sorts of stuff in here. Oh man, I've got enough stuff here to build a model kit. Pipe covers, and I believe what's in the plastic here is the actual printer head itself, an actual item that's 3D printed from this machine. That's a component. And the resolution's not too bad, so if this is what I'm expecting, I could be very happy with that. So I've got a spool, 700 grams of white ABS. I actually got told I was going to get 2 free spools. I only got 1, so that's a disappointment, but it doesn't matter. This is the printing head itself. You got a little nozzle. I see that they sell replacement nozzles online. You got like a little fan and I don't understand all this. I'm going to learn eventually, and eventually put the plastic in some hole and it heats it and extrudes it out, makes a blob, and rapidly shakes around, and that blob takes a shape, cools down, and you get a model. We've got the bed. It's a bit of a textured holy platform, and it's meant to attach itself to the plastic and just hold itself steady. There's like 3 of them, so it's pretty cool. Gonna do more work to that. Let's keep going. So a few hours have passed. I have set it up. It's ready to print. A few interesting things. We've got the reel on the back. I understand you have to be careful when you take the tape off. It can easily unravel and not spool off correctly. It's all fed in. We've got the printer head. It's all hooked up. It's on. It's installed. It's responding to the computer. Had a little. It was very easy to sync with the computer, but it was a bit of a challenge getting the plastic in the nozzle and extruding it and setting up and calibrating it and whatnot. But it's all ready to go. Went on to thingiverse.com to find some files and found some cool things. I'm going to try some printing. That's what, I know it's dodgy to do off a camera, but that's what the layout of the software works. Takes STL or STI files, and I still got a lot of figuring out to do, but let's see if we can get something printing. Now this is the first time doing it. If you were to buy something, even the same model, it comes with enough instructions and tutorials, and there's enough people out there in the community that can assist you. Though, hey, we're all learning here. Let's go to the next step. Okay, in my journey, I've have everything 100% set up, fed, running without a calibration. Bit impatient, really want to see this thing going. Went on thingiverse.com, downloaded a few things, see what would work in the slicing software and whatnot. And a couple of things failed. I think they're far too detailed and ambitious. I've got this helmet, Fullmetal Alchemist medieval looking thing, and it seems to have taken to it quite well, which is very detailed, very ambitious. There's a chance it might come out like shit or like good. I don't know. But it is printing. Now I'm not going to disturb it. It took a little time for the bed and the nozzle to heat up. It's got plastic and shit extruding everywhere and little, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's going for it. It's going to take about an hour and a half. There's all sorts of heating and numbers going through. We'll have a look at the finished product once it's fully done, probably print something else, clean it up and see if we can paint it and looking like a toy or a model kit. So I'm going to close this door and let it fly. Very excited to see how this comes out. So we've been at this for about an hour and a half. I've took a couple of silent shots of it mid-printing, and wow. So the excess plastic at the bottom is the rafters, I think, which makes it help adhere to the surface easier and build up a bit more stable. The nozzle's done. It's actually got a little plastic extrusion. And it's really hot in here because they have to like heat the nozzle well over 200 degrees and the bed like somewhere between 50 and 100 degrees. So I'm going to have to wear gloves and use a scraper and do all sorts of things. So don't stick your hand in there, it's gonna hurt. It's pretty stupid. The model looks pretty rough, but I reckon a bit of a clean up, a bit of a sanding, some putty work, we can get this into like an actual presentable model kit. So we got all that crap on the bottom, and there's a bit of rafter. There's all sorts of really thin plastic covering certain details to make it print easy, and a heap of stuff on the inside. That could all be cleaned up, scraped off, sanded, whatnot. See, that thing's just flaking off, so it's going to be a bit of cleaning up, because this is all this thin plastic around the place is the scaffold to help build the model. And with a bit of work, I think we'll have something that will be paintable and presentable. So we will work with that in the next video, cleaning it up and detailing a bit. Hello, now continuing with the video. This has been chopped up and run for a few days. A lot of it is a initial observation and comment, which a lot of the time can be absolutely useless, because information and new experiences can occur and change rapidly after the camera is turned off. So let's do a bit of a wrap up. I'm still super excited and stoked on 3D playing with the 3D printer, being day 3 playing with it. And obviously in the background you can probably hear it buzzing away. Annoying or not, it's probably going to be a, a new feature around here, depending on how much I get into it or not. But let's do a recap and an absolute roundup, not to sound too rambly, which this video is. Starts off, I am not an expert in this. I have studied and practiced as a draftsman somewhat. At the moment, I've purchased a very basic entry-level Generation 2-ish pre-assembled 3D printer, the Up Plus, locally bought very, very cheaply. I've done a lot of research in various printers, what's easy to maintain, set up, whatnot, compared to prices. This printer ranked poorly, mostly because its space, or the amount it can actually print, is tiny, being 12 by 12 by 12 centimeters, but the rest of the features are very similar to its other counterparts and sister 3D printers, almost virtually exactly the same. They ranked a lot higher. So review wise, this is considered to be a fairly decent machine, and at about 600 Australian dollars, absolutely cheap and affordable. It uses standard consumables. I don't have to import or buy specialty ones. It prints its own parts and seems reasonably easy to maintain and calibrate, but does not do this automatically, meaning I have to calibrate it myself. I had a look in the instructions. Now, when we're setting this up, it's very, very straightforward. The instructions in the box was very simplistic, but there was a series of videos on YouTube where a woman showed how to set it up. That was super helpful. And the general instructions that you download off the actual 3D printer website was very helpful. That was a very quick Google search away. The drivers reacted to the serial number written on the back of the 3D printer, downloaded immediately. Now, a few online reviews has stated that it's a bit buggy. I've had it only crash once when I was fucking around with it and trying to put as many models on the plate as possible, which was a stupid thing to do. And another thing when I was looking at printing something without any rafters or supports or anything, which I'll get to later, and that didn't work too well. But after having a very good read through the instructions after initially setting up and doing the first prints, and watching a few more videos, I believe I have a very good understanding. So with most of these pre-built, pre-set up, well-reviewed printers, easy setup, easy connect to the computer, and go to websites like Thingiverse. You can download the STL files. The platforms or the slicing software that's connected to the 3D printer will upload these softwares, these are STL 3D modeled files, and it'll tell you if it's printable, not printable, and give you a lot of series of instructions. instead of being like a drafting software, it does a lot of assuming for you. So what I actually thought, you had to make something quite flat that sits on the ground you can print up. If you did something like an upside down triangle, try printing it, it'll just like fucking fall. What I've learnt is it will print a base onto the textured plastic square that you get, so it's got something to attach the model on. And if you were to, let's say, print your upside down triangle, it'll actually print these little scaffolds everywhere, and it would plan it where it needs to be placed for it to support the model when it's being printed upwards. Now, when you finish printing it, the bottom base, the rafting, and all these scaffold support beams can be easily snapped off with your fingers, and you've got nub marks everywhere and the rough texture from the actual resolution of your printer. Now, in the 3D printing community, which I'm new to and I'm reading on forums and whatnot, this is very annoying, and they spend a lot of money on newer generation 3D printers that have finer resolution and that are a lot stronger, where they're able to print things without support beams, without scaffolding, so there's less cleanup. It just comes out perfect and they've got a finished model. Us scale modelers, I don't know what the rest of the community thinks, but honestly, I don't really care. Little nub marks, rough texture, seam lines, assembling, walk in the park. We actually do that for pleasure. So something that cheap, very, very happy. Now, you'll go into the option screens when you're just about to do a print. If there's anything faulty with the printer, the actual model, it will attempt to repair it, so it's able to be in a language that the software can understand and it can print out. So that's good. You don't have to work anything out. You don't have to be an actual CAD operator to look at someone else's drawing and try to repair it in 3D. Excellent. And it will assume what supports it needs, what bases, everything, and it will give you recommendations. The instructions will tell you what each menu setting just before you print is, what's recommended, what's not, and the ideal settings you want to put in if you want to do something really, really fast and dirty, or if you want something to be of the finest detail and the nicest quality. A slow print will produce something nicer. Fast print will obviously be a little sloppier and weaker. I'm a patient man, happy to go for slow prints and something that's quite nice, strong, thick, not too warpy. And other things that I've learnt reading and following other people's experiences, when the data from the computer is fed into the 3D printer, the nozzle, the X, Y and Z axis assumes that it knows where it is in the real world. And if you bump it, fuck with the tray, hold it, pull one of the pulleys, and if you just make it go out by a millimetre or more, it's going to be lopsided and slanted. The software is not going to know this unless it's a really higher generation printer, and it's going to keep printing and produce a warped model. Every time you bump your 3D printer, move it, drop it, transport it, whatever, the bed's probably going to move around, and it's going to need calibrating, where you're feeding data into it where the platform exactly sits from the nozzle in the real world, so it can be adjusted to print accordingly on a flat bed. It's an easy process. You can find video tutorials. You can read that out of the actual book. So what we know so far is there's big websites out there like Thingiverse. You can download anything that tickles your fancy. Thousands of models out there if it fits on the bed of your 3D printer, and print it out. I've been going for some fairly complex shapes, so it can go through all sorts of interesting shapes and sizes and complex items, moving bits, non-moving bits. A lot of fun. Sand it, paint it, have an absolute ball. But if you wanted to actually scratch build your own items by drafting and drawing it, there's a lot of open source software that can be played with, or anyone with a bit of an engineering CAD background can go into software that's a bit more complicated. Now, a lot of people and friends have been telling me about 3D Blender. Apparently that's very easy. I saw a demonstration at a pop culture con of a woman showing the construction of cosplay guns and props, and she was able to draw some very basic things very quickly. It seems like an MS Paint of 3D modelling. And I know a lot of other people using the Google alternative of sketching 3D modelling. So those two are probably worth looking at. if you're going to go into that sort of thing. Now, you want to play with 3D printing and modeling and drafting, but you know, $600 to a few thousand is way out of your budget. That is extremely understandable. Now, networking and communicating with my friend Ghost of Xeon, he has downloaded and found a few files of dinosaurs. He loves his model and figurative dinosaur kits. And he downloaded a couple of dinosaurs, and he sent it to a company that has these big expensive 3D printers, got it printed out and mailed to him. So this is an option. Realistically, anyone can afford to play with this thing and incorporate it into their hobby. I'm just lucky to have an actual machine with me. So far I've printed 5 models. That's probably the most I can rattle off the top of my head of my experience. I'm having an absolute fun time with it. I've got about 5 things printed out, some gun components and 2 helmets. We saw the Fullmetal Alchemist Alphonse helmet, which you'll see rotating on the base at some point in this video. The second video about my 3D printing is going to mostly get that model, cut away all the rafters and the scaffolding and actually get, you know, the exposed model, sand it up, putty it up, detail it, present it nicely, sand the roughness and paint it and see what we can get as a finished model out of it. So it's going to be mostly a video how to treat a 3D printed model and turn it into a scale model or toy. A few further videos would be models that are in multiple parts or a little more complex, and trying different techniques and making them very cool as well. I've also got a couple of guns, and I'd like to try to figure out how to attach these guns to an existing Gundam kit as well, but these are going to backlog and back up. I'm going to print a heap of stuff, but I don't have time to actually work on the models itself. And as well as the second video where I'll be playing with the Alphonse helmet, making that all nice. Any more things that I encounter with printing out more than 10 models or whatever, if I encounter any oopses or collapsed models or difficulty, I'll report back onto that, and if I have to calibrate it, I might you know, feature that a bit in one of the videos. So it's going to be a series. I'm definitely rambling too much. Very similar to the airbrushing series, and it's just going to be an idiot stumbling through this very new thing and incorporating it in the hobby. Again, I probably may have given warning at the start of the video. Don't consider this as a tutorial. There's a lot of technical experts out there that are very informative in the 3D printing hobby. I'm just looking at getting the finished products and incorporating it into our hobby. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, we will look at the second video in a few weeks' time. Catch you guys later.